And then, oh, hi, it's Mick Lebinskas here, and I'm joined by SallyAnn. Hey, SallyAnn, how you doing?
Hi, good. Thanks for having me, Mick.
And you're in sunny Sydney in the Cicada offices.
I am. I'm in my new office space with the team here, looking at deep technology and what we can do to have a real impact on the world in the future. Really exciting place to be.
And so you're a new role as CEO of Cicada Innovations, and can you tell us a bit what the mission is of Cicada?
Yeah, so I've taken up the gig here after 15 years on the engineering team at Google, and Cicada Innovations really works to commercialize research. Research by nature is very blue sky. It's got a high rate of failure. It's really, really hard to know what the outcome is going to be when you start on a journey. And if you think about things like medical research or agriculture or highly regulated industries where we want those checks and balances, that life cycle to take something from a lab to being in use in the marketplace is about 14 years. And so we work with our university stakeholders, and we work with others in the ecosystem who have that idea, who have that sort of nugget of research, and we build some entrepreneurial skills and a process around them. We bring mentors and VCs and basically a whole ecosystem of people around them to support and nurture that research idea and transform it from an idea and a concept and a theoretical paper into a reality that will hopefully have a really big impact on somebody's life and in a really important way improve things in society.
Okay. So so there's a few things to dig in there, but I want to go back first. When was your big first technology moment, and how did it come about? Was it a mentor, a teacher, a friend, a parents, a class? When did you go, wow, this technology thing really gets me excited?
I had a couple of moments. I had a moment when I went to buy my first computer, and I had a good friend who basically took me to a component store and helped me build one, which was not the normal process to go shopping for a computer. And I didn't know you could even do that. Like, I literally had no idea that you could actually build something yourself. I just hadn't made that switch, despite being to all the STEM subjects at school, hadn't made that connection. I think the second thing was, for me, was a real transformative moment when, ironically, when I started getting online and meeting people around the world, and finding information on things in a way that I couldn't do before, and being able to make connections between problems that I was having and figuring out ways to solve them and getting those new pieces of information made me understand, or made me fall in love with technology for its use case and how it could be part of a solution to a problem, not technology in and just for itself. But then, you go deeper down that rabbit hole, and then you do start to fall in love with tech for tech's sake. And I think for me, once I realized the application of technology, I talk about it when I talk to students in school. I talk about CS plus X, so computer science plus X, where X is your passion, the problem you're going to solve, or any other discipline. And for me, the magic is where computer science and technology merge with medicine or agriculture or transport or disaster recovery, or, insert problem or discipline here, and you get to be able to really solve problems at scale. So instead of being one-to-one like a doctor, you can be one to a million people, or, a billion people in your solutions.
Yeah, that's amazing. One thing you said there, which was interesting around Cicada as well, is you talk about tech for the usefulness, but then also tech for tech. And one thing I'd love to get your thoughts on, as someone who's have done this yourself, but also now leading it. There is value, I think, in tech for tech. The same thing as value as research for research.
Absolutely.
Say, oh, that's a solution looking for a problem. And there's been so many examples of when has actually solved a problem. But there's also the challenge of commercializing it, the difference between an invention and an innovation. How do you describe the two, and how do you transition between the two?
Yeah, so I think you've nailed it on the head. I think about it the same way as I do with any other research discipline. There is the tech for tech's sake, where you're trying to push disciplinary boundaries forward. So you're looking at, storage and capacity, and how do you do more with less resources, or you're looking at networking capabilities, or you're looking at, quantum is kind of tech for tech right now. it's not at a point where we can turn that into something we can necessarily use easily. But you need to make these disciplinary leaps where you really do theoretical work and sort of prove it and go, okay, now we've proven this works. And then you have that translation piece, which is like, well, how do we apply that to something? What is the usefulness case and what would be useful? AI is a really good example of this, right? We had Watson and we were going to solve chess, and then we've had DeepMind and we've done, and AlphaGo. And that's great. That's tech for tech. It's like solving these gnarly computer science problems that everyone said, well, that's not going to be solved in my lifetime or another 20 years. And now when you think about that, you want to go, well, how do we make use of that? But also, how do we make use of it in a way that doesn't disadvantage people and helps people? And so, you apply it to medical science, or you apply it to pattern recognition in brain scans to look for what would be early indicators of Alzheimer's, or a whole bunch of different things. And so you need both in every single discipline. But I think we forget that with tech, because we often see tech as the enabler and the platform for delivery for solutions, and we don't think as a discipline that it needs to move forward, and it really does in and of itself.
Yeah, that's a really good way to describe it. I think it's, I think both are hard and both are important. And some people are good on both sides, and some people are very happily good on one side, and that's completely fine. So it's, is there any way of trying to help people understand which side or on both potentially that they best play on?
Yeah, look, I think there's a natural tendency that you have to be somebody that goes really deep into something, and you love to have that depth of focus. We talk about T-shaped individuals. You can have disciplinary depth, and you can have sort of all these other cross-functional capabilities. I think even in tech, there's some people who just love to be so deeply focused on one particular thing. You should probably think about the really hard, gnarly research projects, because you've got a tenacity and ability to do that. There's other people who are definitely where I sit into the camp, who really like to apply things to solve problems. So we're really good at, and you need both, right? Ideally, you have them working in parallel, side alongside, so that you can draw from each other. Because the other thing is, you want the inspiration for what the challenges of the world that our applied people are focusing on and how they're delivering to feed feed future research challenges. So what I mean by that, like, you could come up with a problem that you're trying to solve and say, well, we can't do this right now because currently our compute power means that it would take 10 years to solve this problem. So if we had a quantum computer, for example, or if we had a computer that could do this or that or the other, then we can pick this idea back up again. And so they really do need to feed each other. And I think universities do a reasonably good job of this. I think increasingly large corporations like Google and others do this really well, where they have embedded research teams who are focused on the deep questions alongside applied and product development and working really seamlessly. But ideally, that's the sort of thing that places like Cicada can do, where we play between those two spaces so that we are trying to break down the barriers between the two and have a much less friction between the movement of that knowledge and into a commercialization space.
That's again really great description between the two, and I know it's not easy and it's constant work. I'd really love to talk about women in tech and that, especially around both sides of that fence. But I want to do it in context of, well, I know there's a massive, awesome event happening next week, Grace Hopper Down Under. Can you tell us a bit about where this originated from and what's happening next week, and maybe how you're participating?
Yeah, thanks. So thanks for that one, because I'm really, really, really excited about this. So Hopper Down Under is the very first time we're having a Grace Hopper celebration in Australia. Grace Hopper Celebration is run by the Anita Borg Institute, a not-for-profit in the US every year, and it's the largest technology conference, which is a celebration of technologists, women as technologists in the world. They have about 17 or 18,000 people. It's probably gone up from that. And the thing about this event that's so critical and why it's so important to have one in Australia is something translational or transformative happens in the life of a woman when you walk into a room and there are a lot of people like you. So for me, the first time I went to the Grace Hopper event in the US, it was the first time I didn't have to have my guard up. I didn't have to wonder when somebody was going to ask me for directions or instructions or assumed I was on the marketing team, which is not a bad thing for those of you who are in marketing. But my experience in technology is people make assumptions that I'm not actually there and part of a leadership team in a technology organization or part of the technical team. And so to be in a place where the assumption was, tell me about what you do, I can't wait to hear, it was a transformative experience, and it really was something that boosted my comfort, my capabilities, my confidence levels. And so to bring that to Australia and bring together industry, academia, students that are coming through the pipeline at universities, and have hundreds and hundreds of women and men and other people as well coming together to really kind of celebrate and build that community, I think is going to be a line in the sand for us in the country and in the region, which in years to come we're going to be able to look back and say that was the moment that people came together and felt community in this space in a way that was more than 2 or 3 women. It was a massiveness, and you know, that can really carry you forward into an annual event that is something that is enriching and really life-changing. And also, you know, quite frankly, you get to build your networks, and your next job might come from that room of women and men. And you know, I want to see the next generation of women having those opportunities, as well as finding out about all of the amazing research that's happening across Australia, all of the amazing work that's being done. You know, it's not just about leadership and careers, it is a deeply technical conference. There's some really great stuff that's going to be happening there.
Fantastic. And who should attend? Like who, what type of roles, what type of people are going to get a lot out of it?
Look, anyone can attend, and it's not just for women, so we welcome anybody to attend at all. I think that if you're curious about technology, don't let me say that it's a deeply technical conference put you off, because there's going to be sessions there for you. If you're an educator and you're keen about knowing about how to do things in the classroom and embed this in the classroom, this is for you. We've got sessions there. We've actually got hands-on workshops about how to do this. We've got a session around tactile and how you bring technology and teach technology to children that have disabilities or have vision impairment. So it's a really broad conference, and everybody is welcome. You don't have to be an AI expert or a machine learning expert. You just need to want to be part of the community, and we will help you find your place where you fit now, and also hopefully be a little bit aspirational to point to where you can go to. But I think for people that are in the industry, this is the first conference we've ever had like this in Australia. You'd be crazy not to be there.
It sounds amazing. I'm sad that I won't be there. I'm crazy enough, I'm actually going to be in Sydney during that time for some work, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to get up there. But it looks amazing. Like student tickets for $100. It's on next week. July 29th is a welcome reception. Then July 30 to 31st is the main events. If you just Google Hopper Down Under, you'll absolutely find it. And it looks absolutely amazing. And do you have any idea of how big we expect it to be? How many people?
Yeah, I think we're sitting around the 500 to 600 mark or somewhere last week. So I'm about to jump on a call after this and get my rego update.
Okay.
But I think on that, you know, that's a significant number of women in this space. There are not a lot of women studying computer science around the country.
Yeah.
There are more than what there were last year, but there's a real opportunity to grow and increase that numbers. So I think over time, once we get into the swing of this as an annual event and it moves around the country and the region, we think about this as a long term, the pipeline of people coming into the industry, but also the network for people to grow their career and stay connected in the industry as well.
Yeah, fantastic. Is there any way to? Is there any like a Facebook group for Down Under, for Hopper Down Under, to people to communicate about catching up with other people and to do some networking?
Yeah, so right now the best way is to use the hashtag, which is Hopper Down Under. But I'll give you a sneak preview of something that's happening next week. We're actually going to be launching the first Hopper community, Grace Hopper community for Australia.
Fantastic.
And so we're actually going to be working with Anita Borg to have those communities across Australia launch, have some local leaderships in CK and myself who are volunteering, again, not just in the local organising committee, but to step up and help this community really grow and thrive. And the thing about the Grace Hopper events, and I think this community, is it's community-led. It's not led by an individual organisation. It's not led by an individual company. You know, it really is about the people in the community self-selecting and driving it forward. So we're going to be talking about that community next week and working to engage and drive that and have local chapters across the country so that women can really take, and men and other people can take ownership of this going forward, and we can build that out.
Yeah, so anyone listening to this, I'm going to share this out certainly. It's only a week to go, but you could absolutely still get a ticket. You can still go. It'd be great if we can get this to 1,000 people going along to this.
Mick, I'll do a favour straight after this. I'll send you a special discount code for anybody who's watching.
Fantastic. We got a discount code. You see below in the video or in the blog post or somewhere, Twitter, somewhere near us, there'll be a code, which will be, thank you so much. That's awesome. It was really interesting, actually. And my wife last year is like, I'm heading to this event called Grace Hopper. And I'm like, oh, what's that about? And I knew about Grace Hopper. Grace Hopper herself was a Navy
Rear Admiral Grace Hopper.
Yeah. Can you give us the quick pitch about her?
Yes. So she, amazing woman, really high ranked in the armed forces in America, computer programmer, computer scientist, and a woman who led the way in so many different things around programming languages and the development of them, and really transforming the industry. And somebody that was really selfless, and she really believed in her model of leadership was, you raise people up with you and you take them with you on the journey, and it's not about you as a leader, it's about who you bring along. And I think some of her character and who she is kind of really embedded in the organisation and who we want to be as a community. It's not about us, it's about who we bring alongside of us and how we bring people through. And those outcomes are one, it's really a pay it forward sort of mentality, but it's pay it forward in a scalable way that really should pay off for future generations as well.
Yeah, and it's an amazing story. I read it recently because I've got the 50 Rebel Girls book for my two daughters, and it's amazing. My son sits down and listens to it as well, and we love reading those stories. And one thing I love, and it also talks about how long ago Grace Hopper was in terms of the industry. She coined the phrase bug because there was a moth in one of the computers, and it was like, we've got a bug, and we still use that today. So that's how early she was.
I love that you have that book, Mick, and I love that you're reading it to both your girls and your boy, your daughters and son, because I think it's so critical that we have more role models and more books about, all sorts of a variety of people making a real big impact and a difference on the world, because that kind of is such an aspirational and inspirational thing. And it's, I never related to the Disney princess thing. I always got really annoyed that she could be rescued. I was like, why? And the happiest moment of my life was in a movie, in I think it was Ever After, where Drew Barrymore walks into the clearing, picks the prince up, throws him over the shoulder and walks out. And I was like, huzzah, finally a princess movie that speaks to me. But, for a young girl not having any of those things, I think it's great that you're sharing those stories. And I know that you're, writing in this space as well to bring role models and things. So
if you get a chance to watch the next Lego movie, Lego 2, there's an awesome scene in there with all the Disney princesses, and it addresses that direct thing, and it's like it's quite awesome actually. I read to my kids all the time, and it was so appalling that so many books were still being written with a male focus. Like the fact that Harry Potter, that she actually referred to herself as J.K. Rowling because there'd be a stigma of a woman author writing a male lead character about magic, and it was a male lead character, and Hermione kicked ass. Harry Potter would not
have survived.
Not have survived. He wouldn't make the first book.
Yeah.
How many times? She was smarter. She was braver. She kept her cool. She had
higher EQ.
Much higher EQ. And she cared about the elves, so she, the house elves. So, and look, that was a big part of my inspiration was I know absolutely that a big advantage for this generation is that there are thousands and thousands of real role models out there in the world. In that book, people like yourself, people like all, I think I'm up to 30 women in tech I've interviewed, and like they're all crazy inspiring.
You know what? I'm gonna do you another solid. I'm gonna go to Grace Hopper next week, and I'm gonna collect business cards and names and email addresses of women for you to interview, because we've got 2 sessions next week of women who I think need to be on your vlog. Women titters in technology. So we've got 2 Indigenous-led sessions by Indigenous women, and I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
And where are the 50 more of those voices? And I bet you they'll know them. And my goal is to kind of say to them, we need to get you out there. We need you to be visible. We need you to tell your story, because I'm not Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander person. I can't represent, and I don't want to. And I recognize, yes, I'm a woman, but I'm also white and from privilege. And so, what can I do to find all of these other women and other people as well who are diverse voices and diverse people in this space, to be able to give them a platform to share their stories and inspire the next generation in their own communities.
You think you've got privilege? Come on, I'm an old, white, rich, straight guy. I'm just completely peaked. So, which is hence why I do these amazing interviews. And again, thank you so much for sharing all this. That would be great. My 2 crazy goals with the book is, one is to inspire 1 million women into tech, which will take 10 years. The second is to interview a woman from every country in the world.
Awesome.
So I've got Kenya, China. I've got 2 from Nigeria, Ghana, some Americans, some Australians, some Italians, Dutch, English, Swedish, Argentinian, French, Canadian. So I'm working on it. But anything you can do to anyone watching, just go to
you've told the wrong person. Or the right person, depending on the deluge you want.
I bet you can't. I bet you couldn't get enough introduction, Sally. And no way. I know you like being challenged into things, so I'm just throwing it out. We just really have to tell these stories, because partly there are some multiplying impacts, which is women are much more humble about their achievements. One of the issues that I really noticed with my wife re-entering the workforce after having 3 children was, I'd look at a job and be like, I can do 50% of that. I'll go for it. And she's like, I want to nail 95% of it. And I'm like, no, leave room for growth. There are so many good things about, I think, women in the workplace, which the current workplace, because has been so male dominated for hundreds of years, doesn't yet support. So we've got to. And it's just such a worthy fight. I've got a mother, I've got a wife, I've got amazing amount of women friends, I've got 2 daughters, and it's just going to be a significantly better world if it's significantly more equal. It's just well worth the fight, even if it takes a generation, right? But you got
to be in it to win it. And not that it's about winning, but I think everybody has a role to play, and I think it's great that you're doing this, and I'm all on board for supporting and helping your efforts and getting as many names for you as I can.
Sorry, I'm looking after my 2 kids, and I've got 3 kids, and I've got a friend over, and I just heard a massive loud noise, and I thought someone was crying, but it was laughter, I think. So pretty sure. I have a daughter named Grace. So Grace Hop has she thinks everything to do with Grace is about her. She's 5 going on 25. So well, look, thank you. So excited about your new role. That's an awesome addition to the Cicada team and Australian innovation space overall. Super excited about Hopper Down Under next week, and everyone get along. Look for the discount code somewhere, and hopefully we can have a coffee. I know from you getting that job at Cicada, coffees can be wonderfully dangerous. So keep having as many cups of coffee as you can. Everybody keep supporting, and Sally, thank you so much for your support.
Thanks, Mick, and let's catch up while you're in town.
Yeah, I'd love to. Talk soon.
All right. Thanks. Bye.